Hey, welcome back to another episode of Design to Convert. It's your boy, Sanjay Jenkins, coming at you from the Replo Squad. And today we've got Ali from Lucky Lad, and we are going to talk about a lot of really interesting things. And I'm not just going to say it's interesting. We're going to go deep on stuff like using TikTok to its the fullest extent, how Ali thinks about driving traffic from TikTok to his product pages, to his shop, all the different features, all the different kind of tools that platform has, and then go in deeper on how he thinks about content and commerce in general, so on and so forth. But I just have to really, really hype this up. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun stuff that we haven't really talked about. We haven't really gone in depth on this pod. So, Ali, thank you so much for joining me, man. How are you today?
I'm doing good, man. Pumped to be on the pod. Big fan of Replo. Love the podcast.
Hell yeah. Awesome. So let's dive right in. Give the people the quick and dirty on who you are, what your brand is, and then we'll rock from there.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, my name's Ali. I kind of have been doing sort of like DTC e-commerce stuff for like 5-6 years. Started out kind of in like a super juvenile, like building and flipping these like random Shopify stores back in the day when everyone kind of fell down like the dropship wormhole. Where, I had like a friend who'd run Facebook ads. I designed Shopify stores and like we made zero money doing it. So there was that. And then like kind of had this era of like working in different agencies out in Santa Monica and doing some sort of like strategy growth, like all sorts of stuff. And then, yeah, like more recently have been doing work in operating a few different e-commerce D2C brands. So some brands in the healthcare supplement space. And then more recently, my own Lucky Lad, which is a supplement for hangover recovery. So it's a gummy you take after you drink before you go to bed, and you wake up feeling 10 times better, no anxiety in the morning, no nausea, and it helps you be more productive. Yeah, and then sort of like along the way have been telling the story of building this brand on TikTok, where, I've been kind of sharing the journey of like how I source products, how I operate the brand, my thoughts on kind of growing and scaling this thing. And yeah, a bunch of design, kind of like freelance studio work with a friend of mine, Leo, where we build websites, landing pages for other brands to kind of like emulate a similar vibe to what I'm doing with Lucky Lad.
Nice. I know we don't have this pulled up on the screen yet, and if you're listening to the audio of this, you wouldn't be able to see it to begin with, but go to luckylad.co and check out this website because the branding is top notch. I just love just how bright and just like all the lovely, like the visual elements of this. I mean, just like you've got like a citrus flavored product. And it just feel like you can feel the flavor just looking at the website, and it's so engaging. I have to ask, did you build this site, this page in Replo? Is this a Replo page?
That one isn't a Replo page, but I actually have a new one dropping probably like middle of next week, which is kind of entirely built on Replo. So it's similar, but like this thing's totally doable on Replo.
Nice. That's the one thing I will say. It is 100% doable on Replo, and I'm excited to see the updated version. But this is sweet, man. All right, cool. So you've done pretty like a very common like e-commerce arc in terms of messing around with drop shipping. I definitely had a season of my life where a buddy of mine and I were trying to drop ship bikinis. We had no business doing that. We have a bunch, like it's all like, I think that was like 2018. We still have like all of those bikinis in his closet. Like we just kind of kept them. And then, moving in, working in agencies, operating, and then going into like operations. Now you've got your own thing. At each step of let's go back to the beginning. When you were first starting out, was it like, okay, I'm going to do this like e-commerce thing because I want to be a millionaire? Was it just like I really want to figure out how this like internet thing works? Like, what was the motivation? Like, what really like got you going?
Yeah, it was entirely fueled by greed and money. I feel like kind of like rite of passage for any like 20-something-year-old guy is like typing the craziest stuff in YouTube, being like how to make $1 million by next week. And just like all signs eventually, like especially at that point to like e-commerce or drop shipping, you find these like YouTubers or like gurus or whatever kind of like selling courses on the stuff. So that's how I sort of like unintentionally stumbled in e-commerce and D2C. And there was a lot of stuff that I just like really didn't enjoy doing with e-commerce, like running ads, like creative. But I really enjoyed just kind of like messing around in Shopify and like building my own custom site and like messing around with themes. So I like sort of learned how creative it was. And at that time I was like, I was like kind of coming out of college and I was like working in sales and stuff and was like trying to like figure out what I wanted to do. And e-commerce seemed like a fun balance between, this like really like analytical, like numbers driven thing and like a very creative, like you can sit down, like design something, design creative. So I really enjoyed that element of it, but it for sure started as like how do I make money ASAP?
I've been there too, man. That's the whole reason why I got in the game is like, you start out, for me it was like how to make money online, and then you end up in like some like weird like black hat affiliate dark hole, and then eventually you find your way to Shopify and dropshipping and stuff. But I totally resonate with that, man. That's pretty funny. Okay, let's fast forward a little bit. You worked at a company where you're working on a lot of supplement brands. You're seeing the space. I know supplement brands have for a very, very long time, well before the internet even, have always been a great business, like an opportunity vehicle, like a structure of business, right? Like there's recurring, it's light to ship, all these other great pieces of criteria that you can list out. Walk us through the moment when you're working at this company, understanding the game, seeing all like the inner workings of how supplement brands are being built and growing, and then you're like, okay, let me go do it myself. Like tell us that arc.
Yeah, so there were like a few different points where supplements were kind of super top of mind for me. So I guess like a little prior to working at this healthcare brand, I was in different agencies and kind of like gravitated towards healthcare and supplements. It just seemed like a super dynamic thing to sell in a bunch of different places. Like people were crushing selling their supplements in Walmart and Target, and it was like a really great impulse purchase on the shelf if done well. All these brands were like scaling crazy high on D2C. Everyone was buying supplements online. And then this Amazon business was insane where like whatever 70-something% of people start their supplement search on Amazon. So it felt like super dynamic where I wasn't pigeonholed, and you could just sort of like sell it effectively in all these different spaces. So being in the agency and seeing like that every channel was working for these supplement brands, they could sell it anywhere. There was kind of like infinite product SKUs to kind of like layer on top of a brand if you started one. So that like being in the agency space and like seeing such a breadth of these brands popping up back in the day was making it like that. And skincare, I was like, it's insane. Like it feels like none of these businesses can fail. Obviously like a lot do, but just like saw enough through that world to be like, okay, this is a super interesting category. At the same time, just sort of like fell into this like echo chamber of like health optimizing content and podcasts, like the Huberman Lab stuff and like Joe Rogan or whatever. So I sort of like saw this like health movement happening in culture at the same time as well, where like, back in the day, like maybe like 5-6 years ago, someone might have just had a multivitamin in their cabinet. Whereas now, like, I have like 20 different things like sitting there in my supplement cabinet. Like people are buying athletic greens, and there's this kind of like movement to like supplement your diet with good health.
Really, to interject quickly, you have 20 in your cabinet. How many are you actually like regularly taking?
Dude, I take them all. I take everything.
Oh, wow.
I've got it. It's mostly Huberman Labs, which I feel like everyone can relate to. Just like you're a slave to that podcast where he'll just be like, oh, this like sleep routine will help you do this. And like, now I'm like, okay, now I have to buy like 5 more things for sleep. So I like test stuff a lot. I try to be a little bit more calculated with it recently where, I've started doing these like blood tests to like see deficiencies and stuff. So I'm learning, I'm getting better at like just like actually like taking stuff I need rather than just like buying everything on Amazon. But yeah, like my stuff's flooded with supplements.
That's awesome. I'm always curious because like I have a ton
Yeah.
and I never take them. Like I've got like one for like bloating that I've used in the past that worked really well, but I just never take it. I'm just so bad about taking stuff. So it's good. I'm glad that you got them and you're using them. It's good to see. So yeah, so you're on a roll about the
Yeah.
arc. I'll let you continue. So
So supplements were super top of mind, and then obviously went into this healthcare brand where I was working a lot with like some pharmaceutical products, like prescription based, and then some natural nutraceutical supplement products, and yeah, it was like kind of what I was finding is that like yeah, for all the reasons that like you and I mentioned, where these products do super well and they're like a really like hot D2C type category to sell. There's also all these like reasons why there's like such low barriers to entry. Like everyone gets super fired up about the margins on supplements, and there's like tools online now where you can like slap your own label on top of these like off the shelf supplement brands and like sell them as your own. So essentially, like, someone could decide to start a supplement brand and like have a site live next week if they really wanted to. So there's a super low barrier to entry, and like order quantities are like getting lower and lower. So it's definitely not an easy space to kind of like stick out in, but I'd say in supplements, a like really like pivotal point for when I realized that I could do something cool in the space was when it was like a year and a half ago, must have been like maybe like a little over a year ago, where Kourtney Kardashian launched her supplement brand Lemmy, and just seeing like the success of that. And obviously like, I actually haven't tried her stuff, but it's, these like gummies that kind of solve these health solutions. I think she had a bloat one. She might have had like a skin one or something. But essentially, like the reason why that brand really stuck out to me is that it was like supplements that solved a problem. And it was like this gummy thing, which was like a really unique form factor where like you mentioned, you have like those 20 supplements, you don't really take them. It's just like taking these like 5 massive horse pills every night is just like not a pleasant experience. Whereas just like a little like soft chew gummy like feels a little bit more palatable. So there was that. And then like all her like the bloat one you have, it's like there's a lot of brands like that, like Array, where they stick out because it's like, okay, this supplement's for bloating, and it's really hard, like it's really easy for people to kind of like obviously like figure out what that does. Whereas like if you just walk down a CVS and go down the supplement aisle, there's like vitamin B, vitamin K, like D plus K, and it's like to the layman they have no idea what that does. So I think like all these newer brands kind of like positioning themselves around like a health area or a health solution has been like such a small thing that's like created such a massive impact. So that's sort of what I wanted to emulate with Kourtney's brand was, create like a really nice, pleasant experience and like taking the supplements with the gummies, centering it around like a very real problem that, people might have even not known they had, but like they see the solution to it and they're like, oh yeah, I do feel all these issues with hangovers. And then just like crafting this really cool visual experience around the brand and the product, where like I mentioned in the supplement aisle, if you're just kind of walking down and you see these like 30, brands from the same company that like have the exact same packaging, like what makes you kind of like impulsively pick one brand over the next.
The space that you decided to go into was like the hangover cure, like the or alleviating the symptoms of hangovers. And as someone who has been known to get after it on the weekends, this is a very top of mind, very important product. I think I've tried the oh man, I'm trying to remember the name of the brand. I've tried a couple of these. I love but to your point, they've always been those big old horse pills, those capsules. I'm like, oh, I hate taking those, and they don't taste fun. Yeah, I love your form factor on the gummy, and you've got the citrus citrusy flavor, which is pretty cool. And maybe this is inside baseball and you can tell me to pound sand, but did it start off as like a white label product that then you found your own formulation, or were you like, I need to have my own formula right out of the gate? Like how did you kind of bring this to life?
Yeah, it was my own formula from the jump. It's like with compounds, so there's like 3 or 4 different things that go into this supplement that actually work on the hangover. So a lot of what's out there in the hangover space, it's like a lot of people trying to sell electrolytes, which yeah, like that solves a small part of the hangover. It like helps hydrate you in the morning, so you're like a little bit more alert. But ultimately, it doesn't really help work on your brain or your liver, or like antioxidating your liver. So you're not really feeling like, if there's like 4 different parts of the hangover, like, you know, whatever, the headache, your liver needing detoxifying, like your brain being alert, like your body being replenished. It's like most of these solutions only work on 1 or 2. So I had to put in about like 4 or 5 ingredients into this little gummy to make it a very complete hangover curing solution. So first off, it's like there's not really going to be these like services where you can like white label something that complex, especially in gummy form. And then also you kind of need to have like the right doses with supplements to make sure it works. So I was like trying to be super meticulous with like how I dose it, making sure it tastes great, making sure it actually works, and like testing it for over a year to make sure it works. So yeah, it was like me working with this really awesome partner and like manufacturer in supplements to kind of like A/B tests, like trial and error, every single ingredient, different doses in it with like different manufacturers. I probably ran through like 30 different formulations of this thing until I landed on one that actually worked. Tested it on all the boys. We were doing this little experiment with friends. It was super funny where we would go out and I'd pay for all their drinks, and I'd get like, let's say like 5 of us went out. I'd give like 3 of them the gummy and 2 of them placebos, like just little orange things with no bases. And like I tested that to see like, okay, are people responding? Like who thinks they took the gummy? Who thinks they didn't? And then I started testing it on Oura rings and seeing what people's recovery was like and what their sleep was like after. And that's when I was like, oh shit, this works like pretty quickly. So that was like the like with launching a supplement, you know, like what we talked about, those random like zinc or all these like pills you take, you're taking them and it's like, I guess the zinc's working, I don't know, like it's supposed to be good for general health. I guess I'll find out in like 10 years. Whereas something like this is super powerful where like you take it and it's like super apparent the next morning that it worked. But yeah, it was completely made from scratch, formulated myself, took forever.
You tested it on the boys. What I love about this, like the testing process, obviously it makes sense. Like you're gonna go drink, you get after it, and then see how it goes. But the scientific approach, the rigor that you had to test, not only just like, you know, you've got, you know, the placebo in the test environment, but you also, you know, you're validating it with like Oura data, actual empirical sleep data. Like I think that's such a 2023 like post Huberman type like product creation experience, and I think that's probably the coolest thing I've heard. We've talked to a lot of supplement brands, not necessarily on the pod, just in general. Not a single person has mentioned going to that level in terms of, and maybe they have, but no one's ever actually been explicit about it. So I love the transparency. I think it's so freaking cool that you're doing that. So you get the formula that works. Okay, how much time and how much money did you put into bringing this product to life?
Totally. It so again, like I came from a background of kind of like sitting behind a laptop and like messing around with ads and like marketing and Klaviyo and stuff. So I was like coming into this thing completely delusional about like what it takes to like manufacture a product and like the whole ops behind building a brand. And you kind of just like work in these companies, you're like, oh yeah, I could do that, or like I could do it better than them. So like coming into it, it's like, you know, my assumption of manufacturing a product or a supplement was that like, you know, you're like, you go to one of these manufacturers, these contract manufacturers, I'm like, I want this supplement for hangovers. I want it to taste like an orange Gatorade and like, give it to me in 2 weeks, which is just totally not how the process works. So first it took me kind of like months. Eventually, like the process turned into like 6 or so months of just like me kind of like independently researching and like finding like clinical studies and like finding efficacious doses for each ingredient. So it took me a while to kind of like parse through information and data to like figure out what the formula was and like what the right ingredients to use were. And then after that, it becomes like, how do you fit all the right ingredients into like a gummy, or eventually turned into like 2 gummies as a dose, and like making sure the pH balance is right on those, like making sure the actual doses fit in the gummy size, making sure it tastes the way you want it to taste. So then that's where like partnering with the right manufacturer came in. And I kind of ran through like 4 or 5 different people until I found this like really awesome guy who, it's like a lot of new people getting into this will find that like it's kind of tough to find someone willing to work with like smaller, newer brands with like small order quantities. Like I bootstrapped this thing myself. So I'd say from like just the product perspective of like sampling, testing, and then like ordering my first like run of products, which was like 1,500 units. The whole thing probably cost me like $40,000 of my own money. Um, but yeah, it was like a lot of that was like mistakes that if I did it over could probably get that cost down a little bit. But it just took me like a year of just kind of learning and like learning how to deal with manufacturers, which is just like an art in and of itself. And yeah, just kind of being like super relentless and like landing on a product that I'm really, really happy with. I didn't really want to put something out there that like didn't work, like tasted like shit, and like no one would want to use or buy again. So yeah, it took some time. It was a pretty real labor of love, but I'm glad I ended up taking kind of the long road.
And you have, I mean, it's a defensible thing because you have your own formulation. You've done the bioavailability testing, like you know that it works. Excuse me. And most supplement brands that are brand new tend to just white label something like a formula. Maybe there's one tweak to it, maybe, but a lot of it is truly like here's an off the shelf formula from whatever manufacturer that you work with, and slap a label on it and you run it. And it's not a bad way to start, but I think the number one thing that I'll call out, and this is kind of my hot take, is that maybe this is never the case, but there was this kind of golden era sense in e-commerce that you could start a brand for like under $5,000, like maybe $1,000 or something. But if you're trying to bring a truly unique product to market, and it requires actual innovation to happen, especially if it's not something you can do, like you can cook up in your own home with, the case of dietary supplements, it's very important that you don't cook it up in your own home. You need 20 to 50 grand to actually get it off the ground. And it's great that you bootstrap this. You got your own equity, but I'm sure that, if you had a $50,000 check written into your business on day zero, maybe it would have taken 3 months, maybe it would have taken a lot faster, but now you have so much more testing. You were able to like really prove out the efficacy of the product and the equity to your equity. Would you go back and do it the same, or would you like go raise money to do it faster next time?
Yeah, I'm really glad I went down the route that I did, because I like learned how to do it myself essentially. Like I feel like when you have just like a bank account to pull money from, you're just kind of gonna like ask someone what they did, pay them whatever, and like you just kind of assume like things cost a lot, you overpay for stuff. So I mean, just like being in the mentality where like every dollar counts and it's like your own money, you like find really creative solutions to get stuff done. And like I found like I was like super not willing to take no for an answer with a lot of this stuff. Like, you go through a bunch of these manufacturers that like you're their smallest client, so it's very easy for them to say no to you and be like, yeah, no, we can't put these ingredients together. Like, it's not going to mesh well. Like, we can't get the pH right for you. Like, we can't get your flavor right. But like when you're kind of like committed down this path of like, all right, I'm already like whatever 10 grand deep in this thing, can't go back. You just like find solutions to like every single problem with manufacturing. So yeah, if I were to kind of like go back and do it myself, like would go down the same path. Obviously I've like learned a lot now. So if I were to like advise someone, it would take half as long. But like I sort of take that approach, I think, with everything I'm doing. It's like a one-man show right now, but I personally need to know like at a pretty deep level how to do every part of this business, or else I just like can't confirm that I'll be able to like manage someone or manage an agency. And I've had too many like poor relationships with like agencies, contractors, freelancers who I just like don't know what they're doing, and it just like ends up going sideways. So like even if it comes down to like designing stuff or like email marketing or like making creative, I kind of need to know how everything works at least, or like have proven that I can do it myself successfully before finding someone to do it better.
That makes total sense. I think a lot of new operators, especially new to e-commerce, I think make the mistake of just trying to like delegate it out really early on without actually understanding. I mean, I'm not saying you need to know all the intricacies of every aspect of everything, right? But like knowing high level how things work and how it fits in your business and how money moves through and those sorts of things is really critical. So great work on that, man. I gotta ask, if you're fulfilling yourself, are you shipping out these orders yourself? Do you have a 3PL? What was the decision there?
Yeah, so it kind of started out where I was working with one manufacturer early on. And it was a really crazy stroke of luck where I found this manufacturer where it was like, I was like talking to all these bigger supplement warehouses, and they were like, obviously, like I mentioned, those are coming in as our smallest client. They're like, yeah, we want you to buy like 10 to 15,000 units. And obviously like having bootstrapped the brand, I was like, I didn't want to do that. So, I was like, all right, I might have to like do a small raise, like, pay for some of these like larger order quantities and go from there. So I ended up finding a small mom and pop manufacturer who, it was super random. I posted a little like TikTok story where I like post content on there about like DTC, like marketing related stuff. And not even like a legit post, but like one of those like stories that's up for like 24 hours. And I was like, anyone here like something like have like make gummies or like something like really random like that. And some guy just like hit me back, like user 2428 or whatever, who's been like following my content, being like, yeah, dude, I love your videos. Like, I have a little like facility. We can like help make your stuff. So this was like kind of an old formulation before I kind of like nailed it down now, but I would just do these like tiny like 100 unit order runs through him. He like took a chance on like my ability to like sell these things, and like, we were breaking even on them. Like the margins weren't great because the orders were so low, but I was doing these like tiny 100, then 200, then 250 unit orders and just selling them like organically on TikTok. And for those ones, my manufacturer was helping me fulfill them as well. So he's kind of doing everything for me. Um, and that was like a really good way to sort of like test out, like, people want to buy this, it's selling well organically. I've kind of like chosen the right platform with TikTok. And like testing that the site works, like all my angles are right, and like getting a lot of really good user feedback for like 3-4 months I was doing this. And then to now, like, found a little bit more of like a sophisticated manufacturer. I'm doing like bigger orders with him now. And in like this case now, I'm just like sourcing really great 3PLs to take that part on. But yeah, that's been like a whole crazy process in and of itself, like figuring out logistics and like finding a great 3PL.
It's a hard game. I mean, I have a lot of respect for people who run 3PLs. I know how tricky it is, and I know how frustrating it can be for brands. But that's a pretty common thing I've heard, specifically in the supplement game. Supplements and like food, where the manufacturer is also doing some level of fulfillment, and you can kind of get some interesting deals negotiated in that regard. You brought it up. We got to go deep on it. One of the biggest ways, or maybe the way that you've been growing this business, is through TikTok. And so you've been posting content not only about the brand, but also about just building in DTC, talking through what other people are doing. You mentioned the Kardashian supplement brand, and so on and so forth. Tell us how you're maximizing. Like, give us the inside baseball on how you're using TikTok to like its full advantage to drive business here, because it's pretty clever what you're doing.
Yeah, totally. So, like in kind of like growing this brand early on, especially as like a one-man show right now, like my kind of like ethos around growing this brand was like commit to one channel, one platform, and just try to like tap that out as much as possible. So, TikTok being the platform, I'm like, I understand it the best. It's kind of the platform, like between TikTok and podcast, like I sort of went down this experiment of like, instead of trying to like figure out the psychology of these like nameless, faceless people out there buying my products and like, are they buying on Facebook ads? Like what's working? What's the data for other brands? I'm like, I'm just going to try to sell like, these first 1,000 units to like 1,000 other, there has to be 1,000 other people like me out there who have the same psychology and how they buy products, respond to the same type of messaging. So I'm like, okay, instead of doing all this like user research, I'm just going to try to figure out what I do and how I consume products. So I went through like 6 months of my credit card statements, made this Excel sheet of every single product I bought, where I bought it from. Was it a DTC site? Was it Amazon? Was it in a store? How much did it cost? What made me find out about the product? What was the like piece of content or the messaging that made me eventually like pull my credit card and check out? And I was going through this exercise of like going through months and months and months of statements and like kind of filling out this Excel sheet. And overwhelmingly, the like results with my own data was that I was buying, like the number one driver for me was I found out about a product on TikTok, and then it was reinforced by word of mouth. So I had a friend kind of bring it up in conversation. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I bought it. Or like I discovered something on podcast and then I like saw it again, maybe on TikTok, but it was TikTok, it was podcast, it was word of mouth. So I'm like, boom, I'm just going to go all in on those. And I don't have a podcast. It's pretty expensive to kind of place product on podcasts. So I'm like, I can control TikTok. I have a bit of this audience that I've grown over the past few months or at that point. So I'm going to go all in on this organic TikTok stuff. Super easy to get like reach just for me with like a front camera in my like bedroom making videos. So yeah, I tried like a few different things. I made like content a little bit more educational and like well produced around hangovers and like things I do or like different tools to kind of cure hangovers, and try to kind of like prime the audience to like be like, okay, this is someone who knows what they're talking about in like the hangover, the health space. And then ultimately, I'd say like the content that worked super well for me and actually like driving and selling product was me just talking about my experience of building the brand and like telling stories about building the brand. And honestly, admittedly, like the intention behind those videos weren't even to sell product. I just kind of was like, all right, I like was following a bunch of really cool accounts of like guys talking about their journeys, like building brands. And I was like, yeah, I just want to like kind of document everything I'm doing to like, build this product so I can look back to it in a year and just be like, all right, this is what I was going through. Like I've had so much progress over the past year. And then people were really resonating to those types of videos where, I was sharing, how much money I was making, how much it costs to like buy stuff, how to find great agencies to work with, dropping the names of agencies I was working with and like their rates and stuff. So, people were like kind of like intimately involved in like my journey building this brand. And just so many of the early purchases came through those. And it was like videos that weren't even doing crazy well. It would be something that gets like 5,000 views or something, but it would sell 100 products. So like a crazy conversion rate on those. And like, it was something that took me 20 minutes and like 10 minutes of editing or whatever to like kind of throw out there. So I ended up selling through my first kind of like order run just purely through pre-orders and like organic content on TikTok. And then obviously like now in a position where I'm able to order more product, and largely like my order now is like placed entirely through these pre-orders that I was selling through my organic content on TikTok. And now I'm like kind of thinking about like how to cast a wider net through content on TikTok and how to use kind of like all these features that are popping up over the past year on TikTok to just kind of create this like crazy effect on the platform and be like the hangover brand of TikTok. So, there's things that we can like jump into, like there's live streams, there's TikTok shop now, there's my own organic content, there's like a branded page that I'm going to make for Lucky Lad, and then, the whole world of affiliate and influencer stuff.
Yeah. So there's so much that we can go into. I want to go deep on two things first. TikTok shops. I know that's having a moment right now, and then the live shopping stuff, live streams in general, gang, that whole series of content's like so nuts to me. But obviously, it's like a lot of like monetization happening. So yeah, walk me through your philosophy, your hot takes on TikTok shops, and then on the live content, how that's actually going to drive revenue.
Totally, yeah. I mean, like the way I look at TikTok is so funny because, you know, not too long ago, the narrative around TikTok was that like it's shut down. We have another month of TikTok. And then like here we are, like who knows like if or when that's going to happen. But like now they're rolling out all these like crazy platforms for commerce, and it's becoming kind of this like pretty major social commerce platform. But I mean, like I work with brands all the time and I have a lot of friends in the space, and I've seen these brands like transform their businesses like pretty much overnight by just turning on TikTok shop, and just kind of like jumping on live streams. Like there's this guy, Levitex, who I follow on TikTok, and I found him a while ago where he like was making these pillows for people to like, you know, have better deep sleep, and it's these like firm pillows for side sleepers. And this guy was like running these crazy live stream infomercials where he'd have hundreds, sometimes thousands of people in his live streams at a time. And he was, you know, running live streams for like an hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon, an hour in the evening. Every time I'd open my app, this guy was live, and he was like live demoing stuff. He'd be answering Q&As within his live stream. And like the chat was blowing up. Like I just bought one, and like this guy's crushing his Kickstarter through this live stream format. And it really clicked for me. I'm like, all right, this is like the old school QVC infomercial, but happening digitally now. And kind of the power of that is like, you know, you use landing pages, or you use creative, or you use like ads to sort of like preemptively answer all these questions that a customer might have about your product. So for my product, for example, I'm trying to answer in an FAQ section what someone might be asking before they are ready to purchase. Whereas in a live stream, you're actually getting those questions in real time in your chat. So sitting in an hour, like where I'm like sitting in an hour of this guy's live stream where he's talking about selling his pillows, and I'm like, all right, what if, you know, I'm taller than the average person? Like, yeah, you want to buy the large pillow if you're like 6'2". And he's like answered everyone's questions in an hour, and everyone's like, all right, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to buy. So it was such a powerful format. And I think so many brands are going to be doing it now, where you're just like finding the best creative for your brand, throwing them on live stream, answering customers' questions, and customers are like turning to your like digital TV show to kind of like see product demos and like get questions answered about their stuff. So yeah, super optimistic about that.
QVC is back, but I think one of the beauties of this is like in the past, or QVC even in general, like, I mean, still active, Home Shopping Network, all that stuff. People have to tune into that. Like it's almost like a self-selection of like, oh, I am going to flip onto QVC. It's nice because it's usually like people who buy stuff that's looking at that stuff. Here, the model's a little different in that you can rely on the TikTok algorithm, which is incredibly powerful and just goated at, you know, reach. And now you just, your buy boxes, or like your pool of prospective buyers is so much larger than it's ever really been, depending on the quality of your product and, you know, the reach that has. That's so nuts, and it's so awesome to see that it's working. Like I've always been really bullish on like live shopping stuff. I love it. I think it's like old school or whatever, but like I think it's such an engaging format, especially when it's done well. And to see that it's working and that you're using it, and you know, people are selling everything from, you know, hangover supplements to, you know, deep sleeper pillows for side sleepers. And that's it. It just shows, you know, you mentioned the narrative being like, oh, TikTok's going to get shut down. The one that I was always hearing was TikTok isn't a conversion channel. Like it doesn't actually drive the sale. And not only have you been able to validate that it does, you know, organic directly to like selling out of your order runs, we're also seeing on the live shopping stuff, people converting for, you know, a really high AOVs. They're getting their questions answered in a live format. Like it's almost like taking an in-store shopping experience where you like talking with the sales representative in store, but doing it digitally at scale. It's like, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. what else? Like, what else are you doing that's like, the more people should be thinking about? What do you recommend to, clients of yours when they're trying to put together like a TikTok strategy? Because I would imagine that this is somewhat an intense thing to put together from a resource perspective, whether it's money or time or just like the creativity involved.
Yeah, like money, not really. It's definitely like a lot of strategy goes into it, and it's super tough wrangling creators and influencers to post like when and what you want them to. So that kind of takes an art of like relationship building. But yeah, I'd say like think about going pretty all in on TikTok Shop. Kind of as I sort of like restock my product and like look to do like a little bit more of like a formalized launch. I'm sort of going all in on TikTok Shop. And little like I guess like background on TikTok Shop is TikTok kind of has this like back end marketplace now where like brands can sort of upload their products, set like, affiliate commissions for creators to like sell those products. And instead of like, the traditional TikTok selling a product way where like I see a piece of content about a product, I have to go to their account, I have to click the link in their bio, go to a PDP, then find the product where like you lose all tracking along the way, you lose like 80% of your traffic along the way. Now you can just shop through a piece of content if they have TikTok Shop turned on and just pay through Apple Pay right away. So your conversion rate on TikTok goes through the roof, and it's super easy to track which creators sold which product because they buy through the content. So I would really, really pay attention to that. Use kind of like TikTok creators as a way to test new audiences for yourself. So for me, for example, like there's a few different, I came into like selling this hangover product with like a lot of assumptions that it's going to be like, maybe a guy like you and I who lives in these like, like metropolitan cities, work hard, play hard, like guy working in tech. Whereas like, I sold these pre-orders and there was like a couple hundred like 35-year-old like moms in there. And there was like some nurses in there who use it to like wake up in the morning and like they can't afford to be hungover. So there's all these different audiences that like you don't know are going to work on TikTok unless you sort of like follow the data and tap into them. So, using creators like via TikTok Shop to kind of be like, all right, I'm going to test, like if I'm testing 20 creators a month, running these like different pieces of creative through TikTok Shop, maybe I'm testing like 10 who are like 35-year-old women. Maybe I'm testing, 10, 19-year-old guys. And maybe you're like testing different, like visually, like how different people look, like you respond to people who look more like you, for example. So just like casting a super, super wide net with your audience based on like the creators you use, I think is a super underutilized tool with the platform.
It's a great call out. I think a lot of folks tend to have an assumption of who their customers are or will only be. And then, you look at the purchase data as you did, and it's like, oh, wow, you have all these other angles. Like, and each of those categories, just new revenue opportunity. It's net new customers. You're increasing your TAM, and you didn't even realize that was, a possibility. So I think that's so sick. We only have a couple minutes left, man. And I want to give the people like one last like edge, one last little like nugget to get them going, or turn it over to you to plug anything that you might be working on, whichever one, maybe both. Actually, let's do both. Let's do one more nugget, and then I'm going to turn it over for you to plug Lucky Lad and anything else you're working on. So like, what's the nugget? What's the plug?
Yeah, totally. So I'd say like the most effective, I'd say like nugget or like something super early that I wish I was doing earlier is, a lot of people talk about feedback from customers or like feedback from your audience. And you just kind of hear that and you're like, oh yeah, like I'm asking my friends and getting feedback. But, like kind of one of the really great superpowers I had in building this brand was this like already built in implicit audience on TikTok and being able to like ask people questions, like read comments. And along that way, that like completely transformed the brand that I built with like the flavor that I launched, who I kind of positioned it to, the different angles, like, like my brand being like a tool for like morning after anxiety was sort of like a footnote in the 10 other issues that people experience in hangovers. And then just like surveying people and like talking to them and finding out that like more than half of these people are responding to this anxiety angle. I kind of made it front and center based on that. So, if you're posting content, like screenshot every single comment, and like, you know, people are taking 5 seconds to comment that. You should follow that. Survey people, you know, like in the beginning, you know, I was only getting like few hundred purchases at a time. So it was super easy to just like text all of them and be like, can I call you for 5 minutes, and like send you an Amazon gift card, and like speaking to everyone for like 5-10 minutes, like hearing about why they bought the brand, how they heard about it. Feedback will kind of amaze you. And I promise you, you talk to even 10 people who've bought your product, it will completely change the way you do things day to day.
That's sick, man. Inside baseball. This is going to be a great one. I'm really excited for this episode. Last piece before we jump. What's the plug, man? Do we all just go buy? I'm about to go buy some Lucky Lad. So we'll definitely have that. What else do you want to push? What else you got cooking?
Yeah, hell yeah. So, check out luckylad.co. You know, we're out of stock right now, but we're restocking into this month. So going to be shipping product out pretty soon. So check that out if you guys are hungover as we speak. And then, I build landing pages. I have a design studio with my friend Leo, who's the best designer on the planet. And we make really cool sites and pages for brands that kind of want to emulate a really cool creative story similar to the Lucky Lad site if you like it. So we build mainly on Replo. So, you know, if any brands want landing pages done, you know, hit us up at landing.house. And follow the TikTok if you guys are interested in the journey of building the brand and scaling it to the biggest hangover brand on earth.
That's amazing. That's the goal. I love it. Definitely going to be the title, building the biggest hangover brand on earth. We're going to have all of the notes, all the links in the show notes. And Ali, man, thank you so much for being so transparent, giving us so much game today. If you're not using TikTok to the max capabilities, get on there right now. We just got the whole download on why it's so valuable, why it's such a powerful tool. So just go do it. I think right before we started recording, I saw something from Shopify CEO Toby about their integration with TikTok shops and how much they're powering that. So it's like, this is coming. Get in there now. Get after it. Ali, thank you so much, brother. And I will look forward to having you on again on the show. And I look forward to trying your product out soon. Because I get to have, it's a twofold thing. You get to have a little bit of fun, and then you get solved, you know, no Sunday scaries. So dude, thank you so much. And to the audience, we shall see you on the next one. Take care.
Great talking to you, man. Thank you.